Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to review a semi-definitive list of Worst Nightmares by Krystal Sutherland. I read this as part of ARC August. I also received this copy from Penguin Teen, so thank you so much. And I loved it so much. It was one of those dark horse reads. It wasn't something I even had on my radar at all. The cover is really honestly not that cute, so hopefully the finished copy will be different, because I don't think a lot of people will buy this book based off of the cover, and sometimes that's what we need readers to do. But yeah, the story itself is absolutely great, so I want to go ahead and jump into my thoughts. I consider Worst Nightmares a mix between Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson and The House at 300 Fox Way from the Raven Boys. Before I get into more of my thoughts, let me go ahead and give you a laundry list of trigger warnings. It has trigger warnings for attempted suicide, cutting, self-harm, depression, anxiety, specifically social anxiety disorder, obsession, physical abuse of a child, death, the Grim Reaper. That's a steady topic and theme in the story, and also death is personified. So definitely lots of trigger warnings, but I want to say right off the bat, handled fear and anxiety very well. And because it was an ARC, I didn't know anybody that had read it, and I didn't know much about the story. I was blind about the topics going in. It ended up being darker than I was expecting from the cover, but I was comforted in the way that the author handled the heavy topics, and I really thought that she shined a light on how people can hide their mental illness or disorders or their fear and anxiety. They can hide it from the people around them, even the people closest to them, but how they're still suffering each and every day. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the characters. That is what I absolutely loved about this story the most. You have Esther. She is our main character. I'm assuming she is white based off her description. She has orange hair and freckles. She also cosplays as different characters from movie and books. You have Jonah, who I am assuming again is a person of color based off of a description of his sister, because the description said that she looked like Jonah, and she was said to have warm black skin, dark hair, full lips, wide brown eyes, so I'm assuming based off of that. Then there was Hep, who I'm not going to say the full name because I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but she is Esther's best friend since elementary school. And I wish she would have been more in the story. I wish we could have gotten a little bit, known a little bit more about her. She's very elusive on the page, and even Esther herself did not know if Hep was imaginary or if she was a real person. So you as the reader, it's a little elusive, is she imaginary? Is she a real person? But she is also selective mute because of her social anxiety disorder, and so she ends up signing a lot in the book, which I thought was cool. Esther's father is agoraphobic, and he has been living in the basement of their house for the past 6 years. Esther's mother is terrified of bad luck, and that shows itself. She has this lucky rooster. She has rabbits living in the house. She gambles all the time, so she's kind of home sometimes and not other times, and borrowing money from family. And then you have Eugene, which I love Eugene so much. I also really like Jonah, and I like Esther too, but Eugene, I don't know, he just has a special place in my heart. That is Esther's twin brother, and he is terrified of the dark. So in their house, they have all of the light switches on and taped in the on position, and they always leave them on 24 hours a day, every day. There's tons of candles in their house, and they go around lighting them every single night. And if he goes outside at night, he has to be around a bonfire or have these super flashlights, so he can always be in the light because he's terrified what's living in the dark. He's also someone that suffers from depression, and he self-harms. But the bond between Esther and Eugene is just something extra special. I loved it. Not only are they siblings, but they're friends. Maybe that comes from the twin aspect. I'm not really sure because I'm not a twin myself, but I loved their bond. Then we have Esther and Eugene's grandfather, who is basically the one that introduces Death, or the Grim Reaper. When they were younger, he told them stories about how he met Death, and he's had several encounters with death throughout his life, and that is what really triggers Esther and Eugene to believe that there is a curse on their family. And then another, I will say, character is Death, or the Grim Reaper. He is personified, so I think that's an important aspect to mention as well. As I said, because of the stories of her grandfather meeting death, she is certain that her family is cursed. They are all going to suffer from their number one greatest fear. That fear is what is going to send each and every member of her family to the grave. They have lost some members of their family to their greatest fear, so Esther is positive that when she finds out what her greatest fear is, that that's what she's going to die from. So in order for her to kind of tackle the problem head on, she keeps a list of her worst nightmares, and she hasn't figured out what her greatest fear is yet, but she has a laundry list of like 50 things that she is scared of. It includes moths, lobsters, tight spaces, being buried alive, etc. So one night early into the story, Esther bumps into her old crush from elementary school, and she wasn't sure at first if it was him or not, because I guess when they were in elementary school together, he left for a period of years, and now all of a sudden she's seeing him again. So during that time, she bumps into him, and he ends up taking, among other things, this list of Esther's that she's been keeping of her worst nightmares. So because of him knowing Esther and reading this list, he decides that it is his mission to help Esther overcome these fears one at a time, week by week. And that's the basic plot line of the book, is Esther overcoming these fears with Jonah's help. And in the background, you're getting to know the other characters and weaving in other bits of the story. Included in the book are also other mini lists of things, like when she's trying to tell you something, or like facts, like there's lists in the book. And I like that, you know, was a theme throughout the book, are these lists. The writing was easy to get into. I also really enjoyed the humor. It would just pop up out of nowhere, and I just would like be cracking up. There's a mixture of seriousness because of the dark topics covered within the story, even though they're handled very well, but it's also very quirky. I mean, you can kind of tell by the cover and just the title of the book alone that it's going to have a little bit something different. The overall message and moral of the story is facing your fears and anxiety, living beyond the fears. So I definitely recommend A Semi-Definitive List of Worst Nightmares by Krystal Sutherland. I rated it 5 stars. Like I said, I think it's going to be one of those dark horses that people that actually pick it up and read it will enjoy it, and then there will be those that just don't pick it up because of this weird cover. But anyway, that's all for today's review. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I've convinced you to pick up a copy when it releases in September. I'll put the date right here because I'm not sure right off the bat, but I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!